The 6th of April 2020 is actually the 7th day that we continue to observe the curfew and also enforce the wider partial lockdown on restriction of movement to especially those persons that are non-essential, and also the other ban on a number of other open spaces. So at this stage, we continue to ask all our officers to continue remaining vigilant since the threat of the pandemic has not stopped crime and opportunistic challenges from criminals out there. We've noticed that there is a massive reduction in the traditional crimes that we've been registering. But we are starting to get concerns of cases of violence within domestic settings due to the interpersonal relationships within homes. The fact that there is much longer duration within families that are staying at home. There are cases of increased detention that are rising due to the restricted movement and living arrangements. Although our priority is not to arrest, we come out strongly to warn members of the public, especially perpetrators of domestic violence within the homes, that there are a number of referrals that you can always get even if you're facing challenges, instead of promoting violence within the homes. We've made some arrests in very extreme situations where we've registered cases of domestic violence arising out of murder, and we have a few suspects in custody in relation to that. A few examples that I can give is, for instance, in Gulu district, we have arrested one called Ojala Alfred, a 61-year-old peasant, who, while returning, they were returning together with a wife home, and they entered into a disagreement. Now, we have guided the public that drinking in bars and these local bars, bufondas and so on, was an activity that was banned. But this couple still went on to look for alcohol. As they were returning, they were both drunk, and they had a very serious fight at their home in the evening. That was 4 p.m. Where it was Ojara Alfred ended up seriously assaulting his 47-year-old wife called Atim Santa. She died, and we managed to arrest the suspect. It's a very painful experience. We also have a case in Buikwe where a stepmother called Nakaima Fatima attacked a stepson called Maziri wa Yunus, aged 10 years, and then took the body and tried to hang it on one of the trees in the compound, claiming that it was a case of suicide. We managed to recover the body. We found a number of bruises on the body which were not commensurate with the allegation of suicide. We managed to arrest Nakaima Fatima. She's in our custody at Buikwe, and inquiries in that matter continue. Then we also have one called Odongo Daniel. Odongo Daniel is just 18 years old, and Together, he had his wife called Akelo Nancy, 20 years old. They were living together. So, for them, as they were coming from their parents' home, that is at a village called Omel Village, Omel Parish, in Gulu district, as they were returning home, they also got a misunderstanding along the way, where one called Odong Daniel, 18-year-old newly married man, picked a hoe and hit his wife to the head, you know, just through very flimsy disagreements. Then he picked the body and went and hid it in the bush. We managed to recover the body, but the good part of it is that Odongo Daniel eventually handed himself over to the police in Gulu, and we do have him in our custody. Then we also have arrested one called Wakasa Alfred, whom it is alleged that he used a hoe to hit a 3-week-old girl victim, and this is an incident that happened in Mbale. But we continue to register many of these cases happening within the homes. These are the pronounced cases of domestic violence. And we want to call upon the public to please use the same numbers that were given out by the Joint Task Force so that we can always come to your rescue in cases of extreme domestic violence. We'd like to thank the country that we've managed to move very well for these past 7 days. We are looking to how we are going to move forward within the next 7 days. But we want to thank members of the country for the level of patience. The level of compliance is still high, apart from those few members of the public who have failed to change behavior in light of the mechanisms in place to curb this pandemic. The power to stop the epidemic rests with all of us, so we need to move together in unity in trying to fight this invisible enemy. It is still so unprecedented as far as it is, because as we talk, there is no cure, and we are seeing more threats arising from within the neighboring countries. The cases are rising in Kenya, cases are rising in Rwanda and the DRC. And we've also seen new cases also on the side of the South Sudan. So you can really see that we are in that environment of threat, because you don't know what interventions are within the neighboring countries, whether we are moving on the same footing or not. But we must therefore continue calling and rallying all Ugandans to continue adhering to the measures of social distancing, as well as social responsibility and proper hygiene within the homes. We are working together with the UN Women in Uganda on coming out to try and end violence against women in our society during this period. Like I've indicated, we noticed that there are so many cases that are going unreported of domestic violence during this COVID-19 shutdown. But as the police, our offices of the Child and Family Protection Unit continue to remain open, and we are providing the space for victims of domestic violence to come out and report those cases. So as the police and other security partners, UPDF and prisons, together with UN Women, we want to assure the general public, including women, children, and the most vulnerable in society, that we have this continued commitment to maintaining law and order during this COVID-19 response period. So this message was basically directed to all those who are in those settings where there is violence within the homes. For free legal advice and referral for cases of gender-based violence, we have toll-free numbers from the Uganda Law Society that members of the public, especially those facing cases of domestic conflict during this period, can ring. There is a toll-free number 0800 100 150. That's for the Uganda Law Society. It's a toll-free number. They also have a second number, which is 0800 100 151. I repeat that one, 0800 100 151. There are also justice centers in Uganda that are also calling upon those who are facing such incidents of violence, that you can reach them in Kampala on 0800 100 210. And if you're in Tororo and facing domestic conflict or a form of gender-based violence, please get to them in Tororo on 0800 100 211. If you're in Kasese and facing incidents of violence within the domestic setting, please ring toll-free number 0800 100 224. And if you are in Bundibujo, you can call toll-free number 0800 100 223. Then the lines of FIDA Uganda are also open. If you can get to FIDA Uganda or call them on the toll-free number, they will get to reach you in that domestic conflict setting and see how to help you. FIDA Uganda can be reached on toll-free number 0800 111 511. Now, during the week, we continue to register cases of unlawful assemblies. These were in church gatherings, marriage ceremonies, and bars. In total, we arrested 65 persons, most of whom were from churches, especially in Soroti and these other places. The 41 suspects in Soroti who were arrested are appearing in court today. In the transport sector, we managed to intercept 18 taxis and 9 buses, leading to the arrest of 48 passengers and drivers. These were cautioned and made aware of the directives in place. Then we also had cases of obstruction of police officers on duty. This led to the arrest of 7 persons. We recorded their statements, cautioned them, and released them on bond. We've so far registered only 1 incident of theft and hooliganism during this period, where we had 17 suspects who took advantage of this setting to loot and steal from people. 17 suspects were arrested. They are being processed. And we've continued to get incidents of uttering abusive words, spreading malicious propaganda, and trying to demean the efforts of government in place. Our police in Jinja managed to arrest one called Pastor Muwanguzi Andrew Paul. 33-year pastor with the True Worship Center, Ginger, who went on radio, one of the radios, that is Baba FM, and started castigating government efforts and the presidential directives, indicating that HE, the president, had no powers to direct and give food to people in Kampala and Wakiso. And then we've also gotten recordings of people who are saying that the food that is being distributed is poisonous, and that the many who are being quarantined with the symptoms of the COVID-19 are being quarantined are being quarantined and deliberately murdered so that the country can get aid from international donors, something which is very wrong. I think the critics are badly misjudging the efforts by government and members of the private sector who have come out, and the individual efforts of each and everyone who is trying to observe the guidelines in place. We have all seen the response from several countries. There are responses that are amazing, that we look to, and then there are also responses that have also been so discouraging, that has led to hundreds and hundreds of deaths within a single day. So we need to maintain public focus as Ugandans and continue changing fundamentally some of our behaviors during this period. So let's try and team up and genuinely fight such bad behaviors, like of some borders carrying passengers. Yesterday we managed to dominate the highways, that is on the northern bypass, and these other settings within the immediate suburbs of Kampala. The same has also been happening up country, where you find joggers, converging in open spaces along the highways and other public spaces and conducting physical exercises. We managed to arrest some, we managed to educate them, and eventually released them. So that was a warning, and it should be the last one. So we don't want to see people continue converging in numbers until we get to see to it that the threat of this epidemic is actually fought. In the Maracha district, we arrested 4 young men who were posing as security operatives and extorting money from the locals. They were possessing 1 pair of police uniform, which was stolen, military-like fatigue, and we managed to arrest them. These ones, we are going to charge them. We can't even caution them. We have Adaku Bosco from Kololo East Village in Maracha, Akwako Patrick, Echoku Isa, and Eyotre Joel. These ones are being charged as well. And so on. Now, another concern we registered is that some of those drivers to some of the vehicles which were given stickers, especially from utility companies, which we shall not mention now, are continuing to transport passengers behind the utility pickups that they do drive. So they're using that advantage to transport non-essential staff or workers on their double cabins, and they get a payment for that. Remember, His Excellency the President stopped the use of private vehicles because of the abuse which was there. So this is also another warning to drivers, to these utility companies, that they should stop this. We have noticed it. We shall interrogate whoever is behind the pickup And if we find out that is not an employee or is a non-essential staff, you, the driver, will have to go in for it. And we also want to caution you, because you're putting the lives of these other people in danger because you're not observing the physical distance that is required. We've also noticed that there are hawkers who are getting themselves back on the streets and along the traffic junctions. This is an activity that was banned, and because they also don't fall in the category of those selling food items in major markets and so on and so forth. So their movement as hawkers vending some of the items that we have seen is something that was banned, and we are calling upon the KCC enforcement team not to relax on this. They should ensure that they don't allow hawkers to get back onto the streets. The police is there to support their operations together with the other members of the Joint Task Force. We also managed to impound a poster truck, registration number UAR 262C, that had been dispatched from Kampala to Gulu to go and pick samples for testing. The driver, whom we've arrested, one called Chobe Francis, flouted the ban on transporting passengers. We found when he had loaded 5 people and hidden them in sacks of charcoal behind the truck. Now, all these are abusive behaviors. It really shows that there are still people within our country who have not internalized the message, who have not yet gotten the magnitude of the threat of this epidemic. If you can continue facilitating processes that can lead to further spread and infection of the virus. And maybe finally, we released a statement this morning that I would want to take other viewers and listeners, where 14 security officers were arrested for excessive use of force. Some of you could have seen very disturbing and gory images of women who were paraded half naked with some very serious and obvious injuries. Now, a joint security task team of senior UPDF and UPF officers were dispatched to Amuru, that is in Elegu, to actively investigate these aggravated allegations of torture against several women and a few men who were being accused by our patrollers for flouting curfew orders and the ban on public spaces. This incident happened on the 2nd of April 2020 at around 8 p.m. on a rainy evening that was at a village called Lorokwo West. It is in Elegu Town Council in Amuru district. Now, our patrollers targeted this village because of the uncontrolled social environment. There were so many makeshift structures made out of bamboo and so on, and they were so crowded, and following there was too much congestion, whereby it could promote the spread of this epidemic that we are fighting. So they went with the purpose of dispersing the crowds from there, but we realized that they used a very heavy-handed approach where they kicked doors to the makeshift houses, and then they dragged the occupants out. And because it had rained, some of them rolled in the mud, and then the images that came were not very good images. So several vulnerable women and a few men were injured in the process. After the withdrawal of our patrol teams, the victims went and reported this matter to one of the women leaders there called Beatrice Auma. She also doubles as a landlady. She has several businesses there. who photographed them, and I think thereafter the images went viral. This matter was brought to the attention of the Anti-Corruption Unit at State House, which immediately dispatched these teams. So we've thoroughly reviewed the events that surrounded the atrocious conduct of our officers. A total of 38 victims, comprising of 31 females and 7 males, were traced, and we obtained detailed statements from them. One of the male victims, identified as Charles Adigoli, suffered significant injuries when he took a fractured arm and is admitted at the 4th Divisional Hospital, headquartered in Gulu, while the rest of the victims had injuries which were obvious. We've subjected them to medical examination, and we are going to continue managing their welfare and fast-tracking their matter up to the courts of law. The leadership of both the UPDF and Uganda Police have strongly condemned the outrageous and gross acts of misconduct by our officers, who, instead of protecting the constitutional and civil rights of the victims, ended up violating it with the excessive use of force. In total, 16 officers were arrested, not 14. A total of 10 police officers and 6 military officers were arrested. The 10 police officers are being processed on charges of aggravated torture under the anti-torture law. And then the 6 military officers are being charged in the court-martial, and the court process commences on Tuesday tomorrow. Now, despite this incident, it's important to reiterate that both the UPDF and UPF and Uganda Prison Services are all made up of majority of officers of integrity who pride themselves on high standards of discipline and professionalism. And this is what has enabled us as security agencies to keep our country and all Ugandans safe and secure. We are also using this opportunity to vet afresh all our frontline officers who go out to handle these major operations, and also to re-equip them with the knowledge and skills on rules of engagement and the use of appropriate force. Together, we shall prevail for God and my country. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nanga. Let's have
Well, briefly,